Hello once again, everybody, and thank you for joining me here on this Tuesday, April 21st edition of Bang the Book Radio. My name is Adam Burke, your host for the next 35 minutes or so. Let's go over all kinds of things in the world of sports from a betting focus. Happy to have you with me here as one guest joins me on the program today. That is Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. We're chatting some NFL draft. We're going to kind of freestyle a little bit here on today's show. A lot of different things that we can talk about, a lot of different directions that we can go with this. A lot of different directions over at bangthebook.com as well right now. NFL draft coverage and Moss over there at the website. I've got my 2020 MLB betting guide for whenever that season comes around. Past editions of the podcast, past editions of the Bettor's Box, and of course our Sportsbook reviews, including the one for DSI Sportsbook, our sponsor of this show. If you head on over to DSI, use that promo code BTB and the number 200, 100% deposit match bonus for the Sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. And you can bet the NFL draft over there. That's where we're going to start today with Brian Blessing, again, of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline. Brian, how's it going today, man?
Oh, I'm good. I'm a little confused that we're freestyling it today because I'm trying to think what's different today than every other podcast we've done together. I mean, it's not like we sit there and do a 90-minute pre-production meeting.
No, that's true. And quite frankly, every day kind of feels the same here still with everything going on.
Oh, yes.
I know you're out there, you're playing WSOP and losing bad beats and stuff like that. So I guess that's how you're trying to keep busy, huh?
No, the thing that's so crazy about this is time. You lose track of time. And thankfully, the radio show, I'm doing that. That helps me keep track of days because it wouldn't shock me if people literally are waking up going, what day is it? And then, like something goofy like today, I'm starting to, the coffee's starting to kick here a little bit, but I'm like dragging today. You know, it's one of these things, come home, you take a nap, and then you're up till 2:30 in the morning watching a TV show because time, doesn't matter as much. And that makes no sense. It matters. It's odder and harder to keep tabs on time throughout this nonsense.
Yeah, I've kind of seen the meme out there. People are like, well, the world's just like Vegas now. You lose track of time and you can drink at any time you want to.
That's right. There are no clocks in anybody's houses now.
No. Yeah, pretty much no. It's, hopefully we're kind of reaching the end here of this. Some states kind of opening stuff up. Other states are going to be doing that here shortly. Trump and the administration's plan to reopen America, stuff like that. We're getting a lot more, potential rumors that could make sense about the return of sports here. Obviously, we have the NFL draft coming up in 2 days that everyone's focused on. But, Major League Baseball now talking about plans that include Arizona, Texas, and Florida. We talked last week on the show about some of the NHL plans and possibilities. A place like Manchester, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Buffalo, the NBA going to Vegas, stuff like that. We're probably going to hear a lot more of those stories coming up here over the next couple of weeks to the point where it may actually be stuff that makes sense and we may have, sports coming back sooner rather than later now.
Yeah, I've been pretty optimistic about this. I turned a corner. Where it's not going to be good. The NBA is a no-brainer. It's a gravy train to do when the day comes that things have legitimately calmed down. And the NHL, I'm convinced, will hold out longer than any other sport. I think they're adamant to finish this season with plans that bleed into having a full season next year. Where I think they can go all the way to Labor Day. Don't want to, but they can go to Labor Day and beyond if they had to complete this year. So, yeah, the things are going to start to reopen in some place, and hopefully that goes well. It's funny, the slight reopening thing in different states are doing this. If it goes well, great. But if it almost mirrors the whole thing that we're talking about, if the NHL, NBA are coming back, they better not be coming back with the plan that, oh, my God, a guy tested positive and we're shutting it down. Then don't even bother because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So let's see how this reopening thing goes and hope everybody finds a way to deal with it. But if one of the states that reopens it turns into a firestorm. It almost mirrors what will happen with sports. And then how will the rest of the states react if, that guy opened too early and that state went bananas with cases of it. So I think we watch this closely. It almost mirrors kind of what we're looking at with the league's return.
Yeah, and I mean, look, on the plus side, we're talking about sports. I've seen several governors kind of come out and say, hey, we'd be happy to have the first NASCAR race. I've seen Texas talk about it. I've seen Florida talk about it. I've seen North Carolina talk about it as well. So maybe NASCAR coming back soon. We talked about it last week. We have a little bit more clarity now that golf will be back mid-June. I think it comes back with the Colonial, though, as opposed to the Memorial. But still, golf, looks like we're maybe, 6-7 weeks away from the return of that. Maybe NASCAR a little bit sooner. We're kind of getting to the point where we're going to have to start handicapping these things in a really uncertain environment. I mean, NASCAR, you kind of get behind the wheel and you're sort of good to go. But for golf, have these guys been playing? Have they been out there? Are they in a state where they're able to play? If not, have they traveled to a state where they're able to keep playing? Are they just playing on the range or playing simulators at home or whatever else? We talked about carts in the past to kind of speed up the process, kind of, maybe get more guys into the field to make paychecks. Again, a lot of uncertainty, but, the fact that at least we seem to be talking about something that could be happening is, pretty exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, and we'll get into the golf here a little bit, but, horse racing's pulled this off on a very smallish scale with Gulfstream, Tampa, and Oaklawn Park. I guess Will Rogers, but they've pulled this off. And honestly, if somebody else is, there has to be a few others. The only name I remember, I think Javier Castellano possibly tested positive at Gulfstream. They've actually pulled this off pretty good, to the point where I've said all along, I think golf and NASCAR, they're the two no-brainers. And honestly, the golf thing, I think they can go and do this. I don't know. And honestly, NASCAR, Bud, they've gone to great lengths with this virtual thing. And, William Byron's a license to print money at the time. He knows how to play the video game. But the NASCAR thing, honestly, I would certainly think they could do this. I'm actually a little shocked they've been, so slow to do this. But again, it comes down to I don't have it in front of me, their schedule and, what are actual hot spots in certain states. Oh, and a large part of this, too, buddy, is the PR aspect of it. All the sports mirrors what's actually happening with this thing. And I don't care what side of the political landscape you're on. Who the hell cares? Just common sense and what's the best thing to do. But if one side saying, well, we want to start to reopen, the other side says, you want people to die, or the other side says, well, 18 months till we get a vaccine. Well, what does our world look like in 18 months? How can these people be so damn stupid? It's like there's got to be, a middle ground. Okay, we got to wear masks. All right, make it, we got to wear masks and start to open this thing. But the landscape of it is, it's a circus act. It's a political joke. And, the average guys like you and me, any chance common sense kind of kicks into the equation here? Is there a middle ground? It's nuts.
Yeah, I don't know how all those things play out, but as far as NASCAR goes, the first date with something still scheduled is May 16th, which is supposed to be the All-Star Open and the All-Star Race in Charlotte, which I presume that those would be canceled almost no matter what because they're, by and large, kind of irrelevant. They're just more events for the fans, and fans probably won't be at these events anyway. So with that in mind, maybe May 16th is the start date in Texas or Homestead, something like that. Or you go to May 24th, the Coca-Cola 600. That's in Charlotte, in Concord, just outside Charlotte at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Maybe that's the first one for NASCAR. Maybe that's the first thing that we get here. You mentioned horse racing, and real quickly, Irad Ortiz Jr., he voluntarily sat out. He's coming back at Gulfstream, I want to say April 25th, but he voluntarily sat out being worried about coronavirus. And the other thing that I saw as I was handicapping the Apple Blossom this past weekend at Oaklawn Park, Chad Brown had a couple of horses that very easily could have been in that race, a couple of fillies, but he's kind of stuck up in New York. He's not really doing a whole lot with the quarantine. He's not moving his horses around. So there's been that impact. Trainers that are New York-based have maybe kind of sat back and waited, sort of waiting for Saratoga or Aqueduct or Belmont to reopen, something like that. Those have been really the two, hiccups for horse racing have been, jockeys kind of sitting out or a jockey, testing positive, or some trainers not willing to travel. Otherwise, the California tracks are still down, but, we wouldn't have had racing at places like Thistledown or Presque Isle or anything like that anyway right now, as far as I know. So that'll be interesting. When the spring season starts, like I think Thistledown here in the Cleveland area is the first week of May, something like that. What happens at those tracks? Do they get up and running again without spectators, of course? But we should have a lot more tracks to bet on here beginning next month.
I'm no rocket scientist. I've got a feeling Memorial Day weekend is going to kind of be a real nice target for what's to come. And, hearing some rumblings that could be the case in Vegas, that it's a realistic starting point where they're targeting Memorial Day weekend. In fact, it was just to the point I was thinking, what's the deal with the Indy 500? Is it postponed?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it was.
I'm looking. I can't.
They moved it back to August 23rd.
Is that right?
I think
okay.
That's what they did,
okay,
yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, there it is. Postponed August 23rd. But anyway, I think Memorial Day weekend's probably a good target to see some of these things come back. And I don't know, like maybe June 1 and mid-June, at the very least, the NBA and NHL, they'd love to start then, but at least to get these guys back. Because the funny thing is, even with the hockey, and like you said with the horse racing, it's the logistics of it, and traveling is going to be one of the major issues for everybody on the back end of this thing. What's Vegas going to look like on the back end of this thing? Who's going to want to hop on a plane to go visit family, let alone come to Vegas? So travel is going to be a real big concern. Hence the neutral site stuff. But logistically, that's going to be an issue. And honestly, I'm thinking of hockey they're saying they want a 2-week training camp, 2 to 3 week deal to get these guys back in shape. Well, that's going to be one of the big hurdles for the league, I think, is that with 31 teams, okay, you can go back to your facilities and start training. Well, what if 9 of the 31, they haven't opened up their neck of the woods? What if there's still hot spots? So some teams are going to come back and have camp, and other teams still can't go back to their facilities. Again, we could sit here and go on and on and on about all the reasons that make this stuff really hard. You'd like to think it's simple, but it's not.
Well, and that's a huge thing with Major League Baseball. I mean, you're effectively now at this point in time starting over for everybody. The hitters have to start over, get their timing. The pitchers obviously have to get stretched back out again. And even the relievers, have to go back-to-back days, things of that sort. And, if you start taking 2 or 3 weeks to get everybody ready for this thing, and as you mentioned, somebody pops a positive test or multiple somebodies pop a positive test, then what? Then what do you do about getting ready for the season? If it happens in season, I mean, that's obviously a question unto itself. But in terms of getting ready for the restart or the beginning of the season, then what kind of happens? We don't know. Obviously, there have to be some contingency plans in place for that, and we'll kind of see how that all plays itself out. But again,
you're the baseball guy. All right, you tell me. I'm not sitting here giving these guys 3 weeks of spring training. I'm sorry. Honestly, okay, couple games, go. Man, how that plays out, the quality of the games, I couldn't tell you. But these guys got to play themselves into shape with games that count. Because the calendars, the clock's running, right? I mean, if hopefully even to get a 100-game season in, you got to start. So If I'm baseball, I'm not messing around with preseason. I'm not. I bring them back for, have no more than a week. You come back, do a little, couple of practices, that kind of thing, and a couple of preseason games and start. And, let it be damned if it's, boy, we were terrible at the beginning. But somebody's going to be good in the beginning. But I think baseball has to start. I don't think they can wait. Hockey and basketball, they're trying to wrap something up. Baseball, they've got to get started.
And baseball's just so different because of pitcher arm health. And, it's one of those things, too. You've got upcoming CBA negotiations that we're not sure what's going to happen as far as arbitration, player control, stuff like that. So these players are not going to want to put themselves at risk for, substantial injuries going into an uncertain economic period for the league anyway. So I don't think the Players Association would agree to that. And frankly,
honestly, tell me, bud. I mean, honestly, of all the things, of guys you want to get back up in shape, or what are they doing? I saw today there are 3 NFL teams are going to start doing virtual workouts that are like mandatory. There's no OTAs, but it's like, okay, it's like a video conference thing, and the trainer's going to be saying, all right, lifting weights, cardio, whatever it is they're going to do. Some teams are starting to work on that. But you're telling me, even throughout this thing, and you're saying arm strain for a pitcher, a guy, if he's got a routine to have his arm ready, you're telling me a guy can't be playing, playing catch in the driveway or in his yard. The arm strain thing, aren't they throwing now? Wouldn't you be throwing now on the premise that this is going to start?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, they're throwing, but, guys don't throw. Guys throw it maybe 60, 70% for the most part. And it's tough because a lot of these teams aren't going to want their players to be ramping up to 90, 95, 100% without team personnel, kind of observing the workouts and all that type of thing. And, look, there's a reason why there's such a long period of spring training. Starters need 4, 5, 6 starts to build their pitch counts up into that 75, 80 range to do so in a healthy format. Yes, some guys probably do train differently than others, and maybe those guys have a little bit of an advantage. But also, too, there's so much wear and tear on the arm that, again, we talk about guys getting Tommy John all the time. How many procedures do you see, in the NBA or the NHL where guys are out for 18 months after they have a procedure?
Oh, I hear you, but I'm not trying. Yeah, I'm not trying to get any of these guys hurt, but the other thing is too, there's an element of common sense, right? Okay, hey, listen, we're coming out of the gate, we're starting, and every guy's on a 75 pitch count or whatever. You're only going 4 innings, so out of the gate, the team that's going to really ride the middle relievers, they really ride these guys to throw, 2 or 3 innings instead of coming in for 1 or 2. Okay, I think there's a way to get through it. I'm with you. You don't want to be, having your ace be out for 18 months or something.
Well, you're going to have to see expanded rosters. There's going to be that. There's going to be more than 26 players on the roster. It'll have to be 30 plus to get more arms out there to protect these guys. You also have the World Baseball Classic, which is kind of a frame of reference where it was played in early March. The pitchers had a few weeks of spring training and then went from not 0 to 60, but like 25 to 60, 25 to 75, so to speak, to the point where there were some guys that had velocity declines, especially during the season, a lot of guys that were hurt, stuff like that. You have that frame of reference. And you think back to it with the NHL, for example, the World Cup of Hockey. That was kind of their frame of reference to where a lot of those players kind of got through it okay. They were sort of fine. They didn't love the idea. But, if you get a playoffs in the NHL that are June, July, August, and then you try to start the season again in October, a lot less turnaround, but, you kind of have a blueprint, I guess, with maybe that World Cup of Hockey or the World Championships, the playoffs themselves, something like that.
Well, by the way, the World Cup of Hockey, those tournaments are actually exceptional. Right. The quality of the hockey was actually really, really high. And if memory serves, I think, the name escapes me. I think one player had
Matt Murray?
Somebody
Matt Murray broke his hand, right?
I forgot about him. I was going to say, I know there was one guy had pretty significant concussion, maybe missed a juicy amount of time. So yeah, no, I mean, you can get hurt. You can get hurt in the morning skate.
Oh yeah.
So and the other thing is though the hockey, if it comes back, that's going to be a real interesting handicap because everybody's starting fresh, and some teams were floundering, other teams were coming on. Who's going to react to coming out of the gate and start fast? Somebody crazy could go on a run, and I can't see any way that the regular season is completed. I think there are a bunch of different things. I was talking about like a round robin with the top three in each division. Okay, you guys are in, and then there's kind of a little mini, I don't know if it's a best of three or a round robin or a play-in to determine the 7 and 8 seeds in each conference. Mike Harrington from the Buffalo News was on my hockey show yesterday. His idea, I mean, there's different ways to do it, was, okay, hockey, the top, you get a couple of buys. You get the top two in each conference get a buy. And, okay, there's another idea. It's manageable. The one thing I can tell you, buddy, if they do that, you run to the window, because we talked about it on this podcast, and the league did everything they could to change it where there were only a handful of games of teams coming off a bye playing a team that had a game under their belt this year. The year before, when virtually half the league was coming off the bye playing a team that had a game under their belt, the team with a game under their belt, regardless of the quality of the team, they were dominant. So if there's a play-in round of some sort to get to determine the 7 and 8 seeds, if those teams have games under their belt, they are going to be lethal when the playoffs start.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that sentiment, to be sure. I mean, I couldn't run to the window fast enough to bet on a team that's already been playing, in particular in game 1 and game 2, against a team that hasn't been playing at all. Oh, man, I mean, that would be such a great betting angle to try and exploit. Speaking of betting angles, let's take a look here at the NFL draft. Again, we're a couple of days away from that. And, Brian, like we talked about last week, like I wrote about last week at bangthebook.com, so much coverage of this event. And so many...
It's like the Super Bowl.
So many reporters taking the bait. They're being played like a cheap fiddle by these teams. You've got smoke screens. You've got tea leaves. You've got all this stuff going on. What I'm looking at, man, is I'm looking at the odds. And what the odds are saying right now is that we're back to a point where Tua looks to be the clear second quarterback off the board. At one point, it was kind of even between him and Justin Herbert. Now it looks like Tua, a pretty big favorite, minus 160 or higher out there in the market, to be the second quarterback off the board. And part of this is because we're seeing a bunch of trade whispers and rumors now. Oh, the Redskins are shopping their pick. Oh, the Lions are shopping their pick. Oh, Team A and Team B are, trying to find out who wants their pick. This and that. The Giants are looking to trade their pick now. My God, just start this damn thing already, because I'm tired of reporters taking the bait, wanting the clicks, wanting the traffic. I think the top 4 goes exactly how we expect the top 4 to go, and maybe Tua goes 5 or maybe he doesn't. And the markets are generally sharp in regards to this kind of thing, but I don't know. I don't know if they're just taking the bait because there's nothing else to do or what.
No, it's an industry. You do this when we're up and running. You do this every day. I join you every Tuesday, and we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. If you're running a mock draft site and that's your business and that's your focus of attention, you're a draft expert, and you're going to put a mock draft up and have the same players in the mock for 6 months running. Like, who's going back to look at your site? So these guys are changing it and try to keep it interesting. And the reality of it is, you knew this was going to happen. There's the disinformation, what's real, what's not. I'm not changing my mind from how many weeks ago did I say to you, the Tua kid, he could be great, but there's just something telling me I envision a scenario where it's viable that he drops. I mean, nobody's getting their meat hooks or their hands on this guy. They're taking people's word he's okay. Oh, look at him. You see him in practice, and he was sidestepping. He was okay. Yeah, that's great. He's not running the drills. Well, I guess he is. Run the drills they want him to run, but I don't know. I could see a scenario where he drops. Then you get, and maybe it's all disinformation. Oh, now Herbert, maybe even the Bengals do something stupid. But, okay, the Falcons want to move up. The Broncos want to move up. If the Patriots are sitting there in the weed with all these extra third-round picks, if somebody drops, maybe the Patriots jump up. Oh, now the Niners open for business. Our 2 first-round picks, we want to trade out of there to get more picks because we don't have enough picks. It's a circus act. And now, as you said, that was the new one today because for 2 weeks we've been talking about if you're Detroit, you're sitting in the catbird seat. Redskins are taking Young. The Lions are sitting in the catbird seat. They got rid of Slay. So, oh, yeah, we can take the cornerback to replace Slay, but all you did was replace a guy. You know, they could get an army of picks, move down, maybe still get the quarterback they want, and get another second and a third-round pick. So the Lions were like the focal point, the starting point of the draft. And all of a sudden, the Redskins, yeah, Young's a great player, but you're nuts not to sit there if Burrow indeed is going to the Bengals, that the Redskins are sitting there going, hey, come to the witch doctor, make the phone call. Yeah, we like Young, but if somebody's going to give me, you know, a 1 and 2 twos to go up to 2, I can get 3 guys that are a part of the core for 7-8 years, 3 high-end guys. They're nuts not to take the phone call.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And something else that's kind of thrown a wrench into all of this is all of the reports that came out yesterday that the attempt at a mock draft was a complete and utter shit show. And that's concerning because
the first pick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of those things too, where now if I'm sitting there and I'm a front office executive, I'm somebody who's on a call with my team and my personnel, and then somebody's got to put this pick in and hope that everything works with the NFL. I'm sitting there thinking, you know what? I don't want to wait until Thursday to decide exactly what we're going to do. If we're trading this pick, I'm doing it on Tuesday or Wednesday. If we're making this pick, I'm going to know exactly who I want so this thing cannot get effed up. And we talked about it last week. I think we talked about it a little bit on Thursday's show with Brad Powers that maybe this leads to a certain level of conservatism in this draft. Because if you don't have everything figured out, 24, 48 hours before this thing gets going, and there's a glitch or there's some screw up or you can't communicate with your team or with the league office or whatever else, things don't work out the way that you planned for them to. So I think we may see some of these trades happen on Wednesday. I think we may see some of these trades happen very early Thursday morning. And we may see some teams just take the safe player as opposed to maybe getting a little bit, aggressive with their risk profiles, just because now you throw a wrinkle in there that this thing may not work the way it's supposed to.
Well, I guess it was Adam Schefter about 5 days ago said one GM said, the mocks aren't even close. And then some other beat writer or whatever said, well, just the way it was said, it had to be Gettleman. And, Gettleman's kind of a loose cannon. But if he's right, and he could be right, these mocks, 1 or 2 crazy things, and this thing, and you look at the wide receiver position, that's going to go 1 of 2 ways. You see some mocks where 4 of these guys are going in the top 15. When one goes, there's going to be a run on them. Or the position is so deep, I can see 2 or 3 teams say, I want the guy, I want a wide receiver, but I can take the best linebacker, or I can take the best, tackle or safety that's on the board, and I know I'll still get a really good wide receiver in the second round that's comparable to what I'm going to get here, that the quality of the position could actually work against it where a clump of them drop too. It really is kind of a Rubik's Cube you're trying to put together.
It is. And again, the offensive line position, which we've talked about a lot, for the longest time, Tristan Wirfs was the favorite to go first among the offensive linemen. Now it's Jedrick Wills. And now it's even getting to the point where a guy like Andrew Thomas out of Georgia, his odds to be the first offensive lineman taken were, plus 750, plus 1,000, stuff like that. Now you're seeing plus 400 and plus 500 out there, which, still implies he's probably not going to be the first offensive lineman off the board. But it also says to me that maybe he's moving up the boards of some of these teams. Maybe there's a team that wants to trade up for that guy, but I think it's just one of those cases where, like I just said, I think at this point in time, if you're sitting here and you're looking at all these different scenarios and these different trade possibilities and this and that, maybe you just say, you know what? It's a unique year. Let's just simplify this process. We're going to take this 8-year starter at left or right tackle and just go with that. We're just going to do that. Instead of trading back for third-round picks and picks for next year and all this type of thing, we're just going to take a safe player, an offensive tackle that's going to start for us throughout his rookie contract and throughout the second contract we give him, and that's what we're going to do. And I see something like that kind of taking shape here with a guy like Thomas, who's not the athlete that Mekhi Becton is, but a safer type of player, seeing his odds come down, seeing his under draft position get heavily juiced. And again, it's going to vary from team to team, but that just kind of illustrates to me that maybe there's this conservative level of thinking to where maybe even the wide receivers start going in the top 10. A lot of people pegging them for, 10 through 15. Is there a safer pick than taking Lamb, Judy, or Ruggs to go run routes for you for the next 5-6 years? I don't think so. So maybe those guys kind of move up the board a little bit.
Let me throw this at you. I mean, when everything we talk about every week is one thing is attached to the other. I always say to you, like a horse racing philosophy, I think you can employ in sports handicapping, where what one thing means something that impacts something else. And honestly, I think Brandon, I'm a Bills fan, obviously. If we listen to the show, you would know that. They don't have a first-round pick. I'm drooling over the draft. I think they could take this Edwards-Helaire kid, or if the running back from Wisconsin. They're going to get a running back at some point to complement Singletary. I hope they take this Edwards-Helaire kid. I think that's be a terrific combination. Or they could wait till the third round and take the A.J. Dillon kid from Boston College. Or all of a sudden, Fournette is out there. And would you give – if I'm the Bills, I know he's kind of a head case, but they're really good with their culture. I'd give up a 4th or a 5th round pick for Leonard Fournette and Merry Christmas. It's a 1-year thing, but they're built to win now. So – who does it well and who doesn't do it well. The one thing I would say is Brandon Beane, actually, it's been a long time coming, and it's an actual treat to have a GM that's making the right deals, and he's aggressive, but he's built something really smart. So, okay, I've got faith in this guy. Now, he gives up the 22nd pick for Stephon Diggs, and, he had a 4th and a 5th, and people say they overpaid. Well, they're built to win now, and that was one of their big needs. And now they get the running back. They're good to go on offense, and the defense has been terrific. But by doing what he did, and Diggs is another one, could be a bit of a head case. But subliminally, was Brandon Beane saying to you, everybody drooling over all these wide receivers, and he was going to have his choice of 2 or 3 of them, and he went and got Stephon Diggs. I mean, could he be saying to you, these guys aren't as good collectively as everybody thinks they are? And I'm reading between the lines. He did that, and yes, Diggs is an exceptional talent to change the scenery, and it could all work. But if these guys were all so good, why would he give up what he gave up to get this guy? He may be telling you, they're all a coin flip. Who knows which one's going to be the best of them?
Well, I mean, beyond Lamb, Judy, and Ruggs, I mean, I think, maybe Justin Jefferson winds up being the next best player in that group, but I think the safety and security and certainty of Diggs versus Denzel Mims or, Brandon Ayuk, who, of course, had surgery right before the draft, some of these other guys that are potential super late first-round guys, I think the certainty of Diggs is worth that. I think if you had a chance at Lamb, Judy, or Ruggs, you take them over Diggs, but the Bills never had that chance.
I don't know about Ruggs. I really don't know about Ruggs. I mean, he's either. I don't think there's any middle ground, and you can say this about all the quarterbacks too. But Ruggs, to me, he's either Tyreek Hill or he's Marquise Goodwin. Take your pick, and believe me, way more often than not, those kind of guys turn into Marquise Goodwin. I mean, the Ruggs thing. He's the fastest guy at the draft, and he's this and he's that. And I'm not knocking the kid. But, maybe you could say the same thing about Judy. Judy looks like the real deal. But the Ruggs thing, just like Tua. Tua's playing on an NFL team, all right? But you got Judy and Ruggs running around. Okay, with all the weapons they had, did those guys make the Ruggs kid look better? Yeah, he can run like a reindeer. Got news for you. DBs in the NFL can run like a reindeer. I think Ruggs is risky.
No, that's fair. And again, I mean, it speaks to, kind of looking at the risk profiles of these teams. And one that's really interesting to me is Derek Brown at Auburn. Derek Brown now is the second favorite to be the third overall pick. So if the Lions keep it, the expectation is Okudah, or they could possibly go the Derek Brown route. Of course, we know they've spent a high pick before on a defensive tackle, guy named Ndamukong Suh. But Derek Brown, again, I mean, a run stopper, a guy that may occasionally get a pass rush from his interior lineman position. But this is a guy that people were talking about going, seventh or eighth. Now maybe there's some discussion that maybe he goes third, because I think, to me, again, a safe pick, a defensive tackle, a big athletic dude in the middle of the defense to stop the run and occasionally disrupt the quarterback a little bit. Safe pick, conservative approach. Maybe that leads to Javon Kinlaw going higher from South Carolina as well. But again, I think as you start to look at how the odds are moving around here, maybe the draft environment, the virtual concept, the concerns that all these teams have of this thing working out correctly may dictate your risk tolerance on draft day. And maybe that's why a guy like Derek Brown moves up, why a guy like CeeDee Lamb could go top 10, why a guy like Andrew Thomas is now expected to go maybe top 7, top 8, something like that. I think if you're looking for fireworks in this draft, and I could be dead wrong here, and it wouldn't be the first time, I think reading between the lines here of what's happening in the betting markets, I think we get a much more conservative top 10 than what people want to see.
No, could be the case. I mean, all good points. I mean, the thing I like about this draft is we follow it for so long that we feel like we know these kids. I mean, even into the third round, and the prospects of who's going to be the diamond in the rough. I'll tell you, if you get bored, go watch the highlights of this kid from Liberty, this Antonio Gandy Golden. I mean, who knows how high up he goes, and people would probably thumb their nose at him because of the competition they faced. But you watch this kid, I mean, he's an absolute monster. And he could end up being just, right up there with the best of all of the ones that they keep mentioning. And you're probably going to get him probably on day 2. He may make it to the weekend, but go watch this kid's highlights. He's an absolute monster. It's unfair to the kid. I don't think he has his kind of speed. But if you watch him, he looks like Randy Moss.
Well, and that's one of those things, too, where, I mean, obviously it's not helpful that the kid wound up playing against, lesser competition. But, okay, fine. So he's not facing an NFL defensive back every time he lines up like these guys from the SEC are. He's also the only focal point of that defense. He's getting bracket coverage. He's getting triple coverage. He's getting pressed at the line, having to get separation, and then someone's coming to help over the top or, just sort of dropping back in zone coverage, something like that. And he still puts up numbers. And I think that's something that, look, I understand the top-end talent of Lamb, Judy, Ruggs, Jefferson, et cetera, there's a reason why a lot of pretty good wide receivers over the course of the NFL have come from smaller schools, and maybe some of those guys are in this year's draft crop.
You may take issue with this, and there's a lot of time to go forward here to say what's actually right. And all right, we can have this debate in your backyard, but you just don't know. I mean, if you look at the draft, their draft year, Mayfield and Darnold went ahead of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And I don't think anybody's got a beef right now about Lamar Jackson. And honestly, I said this then, and we'll see if it pans out, I would clearly much rather have Josh Allen than Mayfield or Darnold. And these are guys that went below them. And that happens every year.
That's fair. No, it's definitely a fair point, and a lot of things that we can consider here for the first round of the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. We'll continue covering that over at bangthebook.com. And, Brian, I'm sure you're talking a lot about that on Sportsbook Radio as well.
Yeah, I mean, the draft's been, like you said, it's the Super Bowl, right? It's 2 weeks. Okay, play the damn thing already. But I think there's honest intrigue to it. The ratings will be through the roof. Then to watch the different aspect of this with the IT, is everything working? What snafus might there be? So, no, the draft, we had great fun with that. In fact, Thursday, and we're on noon to 2 Pacific time, kshp.com. Shows are archived at sportsbookradio.com. But we've been doing this every year. We'll do our annual NFL mock draft show Thursday it's a nice stable of guys. We got Chuck Esposito from Sunset Station, Mike Lewis from the Sun Coast, who's a big Lions guy, so he'll have that third pick. Well, Bruce Marshall, Andy Isco, Mark Lawrence. We're doing a mock draft. You want to get involved? You want to do the Browns pick? Get on board with us. So we're doing a mock draft show on Thursday, which will be fun. And then the hockey show, soldiering on here. There's downtime, but we're talking about prospects. We're talking about the salary cap. We're talking about the neutral site locations. There's so many ramifications of when, how, where is this thing going to start. So we're getting through it. And I will tell you, Bud, honestly, you get to like December and you're going 7 days a week and it's a Tuesday Tuesday. I'll do the podcast with you on a Tuesday in December. All right, Bud, have a good day. Then I'll sit there and go, ugh, I'm dragging. Okay. Anybody, I'm not working with a jackhammer, but okay, you got to go do the radio show. And now every day it's like, hey, I got to go do the radio show. I'm getting the hell out of the house. I think the radio show is like salvation.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you on that one, definitely. I mean, you and I, it's an industry of burnout because it just never stops. And now I wish I had more things to do. And it does seem like.
Well, when you whine to me in a year and a half about how tired you are, I'll go, yeah, remember when?
Well, at least it seems, like the discussion that we had to kick off today's show, at least it seems like we're getting closer to some things and hopefully, sooner rather than later here. But along with Sportsbook Radio, you're doing Vegas Hockey Hotline, you're doing the Hockey Betting Podcast. You've always got something going on there on your Twitter page at Brian Blessing.
Yep, and once a week we're still doing the Hockey Betting Podcast with Cam Stewart. We have some chuckles with that. That's great fun. You can get all that stuff on my Twitter at Brian Blessing, and love doing this with you, buddy. And we're, I'm not saying we're killing time. I think we've had. I can't wait. I mean, we could go all day. We do this every week, but I'm telling you, I've been saying this. I know I said it to you last week after watching the Tiger thing, but I have been saying this for 3-4 weeks. I cannot wait for golf. Golf without fans is going to be so awesome because the golf course is going to play the way the golf course was going to be meant to be played, and they're going to play it like you and me would play it. Because these guys hit stray shots, but their stray shots aren't going to hit the gallery, and they're not going to be in a matted down grass with a nice lie 15 yards from the green. They're going to be 40 yards from the hole with doubles and triples flying all over the place. And Brooks Koepka even said this week, there's going to be a lot of lost golf balls without fans, and he's damn right, because you don't think of these guys, doing stuff like that. But believe me, even the guy that wins the tournament 2 or 3 times over the course of 4 days, he hits a brutal shot. But that brutal shot, if instead of hitting fans, if it goes OB, that guy who could have been a runaway winner ain't the runaway winner. And you're going to have guys with 2-shot leads going to the last hole. Believe me, they'll be biting their nails down to the quick because there'll be no sure things. These tough courses playing the way they were meant to play, without fans, it's going to be great. There's going to be carnage.
Well, it snowed today for the 5th time in 2 weeks. I would love to be out there on the golf course. Oh, yeah, it's great. I would love to be on the golf course 3-putting from inside 10 feet again. But, it's just it rains or snows every damn day here. So I feel your pain. You don't feel my – it's 80 degrees there. You don't feel my pain.
No, I do. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, if the Sabres hadn't gone bankrupt, I never would have. I'd be going through this with you. All right. And finally, I came to a crossroads. I said, "The hell with this. I'll do it." But I'm telling you, and the determining factor for me doing this and making this move out here was what you're going through right now, because I could not tolerate at the end. I liked winter. I did. I could not tolerate. I made it through winter, But March, April, and May, 50 degrees and gray. I could not stand that. I made it through winter, and you give me 3 months of overcast skies, and it's gray, and you don't see the sun. This time of year for you, going through what we're going through now, ouch.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm sitting out here, we're as miserable as everybody else, try to keep a stiff upper lip. But I've been out here, and I whine to you how cold I am on the patio doing this stuff when it's like 40 degrees out here. 40 here feels like 10. But I'm sitting here. I just need, by the end of this week, I'm in the pool. It's going to be in the 90s by the end of this week. And, and you got another 5 weeks of overcast skies.
Yeah, lucky me.
Hey,
Brian Blessing,
I'm here for you. You got my phone number.
Yeah, I know. Time to move. Brian Blessing, the host of Sportsbook Radio and Vegas Hockey Hotline, at Brian Blessing on Twitter, kshp.com, sportsbookradio.com. Brian, appreciate the time as always, bud. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you again next week.
It will be here before you know it, man.
There you go. There's Brian Blessing again, at Brian Blessing on Twitter, sportsbookradio.com, kshp.com for his 2 daily radio shows.